Nerdcast assemble!
Stay dandy, baby. In the grand tradition of the Naruto and Boruto franchise, a brand new Rasengan form is revealed in this pretty intense and exciting training episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. You know what? There's always been one major constant throughout the entire Naruto and Boruto franchise, which is the main characters are either fighting a big villain or villainous group, or they're doing some training. And this episode right here is all about the training. And honestly, this ended up being a really surprising episode, as I really thought it was going to be all about Boruto having a huge rematch with Shijoji and revealing his brand new Rasengan. And all of that did indeed happen. However, it was only a very small part of this episode. In fact, it was probably 1/4 of the entire episode. I'm really surprised that it wrapped up all that fast. Really, most of this episode was devoted to the character of Sarada, as she was being trained by her parents, Sasuke and Sakura, and I have to admit, I ended up enjoying a lot more of that than anything that was going on with Boruto. But before we even get to Sarada's story, let's talk about some of the big highlights of Boruto's training. And I kind of like how they messed with us a little bit. How throughout the course of the last couple of episodes, Boruto has been training to use a brand new wind-style form of Rasengan, and they were doing everything in their power to make it as distinctive when compared to some of the previous forms of Rasengan that we've seen, giving it that green color scheme and that sort of like weird, sort of like Saturn look with the ring actually going around the big ball of chakra. However, he immediately uses that technique against Shijoji in this episode, which doesn't work because Shijoji uses the wind-style Zephyr Shield, which basically is like the ultimate shield against this type of technique. And at first, it seemed like that was the end of it, but of course, Boruto, just like his father, always has an ace up his sleeve, a sort of trick, if you will, in order to surprise his opponents and bring out something that they were not expecting. And right after the intro played, we finally got their battle, which ended very quickly, but was very well animated, I do have to admit. It looked really cool. Again, I think the Boruto anime series, when compared to the previous Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, consistently always looks better in terms of its animation and its fight scenes, but this was a pretty cool moment here where Boruto surprised us by showing us a brand new form of Rasengan, which was not the wind-style Rasengan, but a brand new form known as the high-compression Rasengan. And basically, it's like a super-powered Rasengan that we've seen before, like a massive one that's incredibly destructive and powerful, except that it's been condensed into its smallest form possible, which inherently makes it a lot more powerful. Basically allow him to break through Shijoji's Zephyr Shield and send him flying. Now, it's visually not too different from the Rasengan that we've actually seen from the past, but it's a little different than the ones that we've actually seen before. And again, it's always cool to see Boruto get his very own brand new form of the attack in order to separate him a little bit more from all of his predecessors and the ones that have utilized the technique before. Everyone from Minato Namikaze to Naruto, Kakashi, and even Konohamaru. So it's cool. Boruto now has his very own form of Rasengan, and that's pretty much the end of that training session. He passes out from the extreme exhaustion of using this technique and fighting against a giant Pac-Man-like enemy, and then we finally move on to Sarada's story. And like I said, I think this is where things get infinitely more interesting. I really thought that, though, they were going to give us, like, the awakening of Sarada's brand new form of the Sharingan in this episode, where she was going to get that brand new mark on her eye, and surprisingly, it never actually happened. Basically, this episode made it clear that she still has a long way to go in terms of utilizing the Sharingan, but also mastering her chakra control. And luckily, her mother Sakura is actually there to help her out, and that's what I really loved about this entire training scene, was getting to see her work directly with both of her parents. It was a nice change of pace, and considering that Sasuke has basically just been sort of standing around and summoning multiple kunai, it was really refreshing to see Sakura come in and bring her distinctive fighting style to the battlefield, which involves destroying said battlefield with fists. So Sakura is here to throw Sarada directly into the School of Hard Knocks, learning by doing. And so she decides to fight against her and show why her chakra control is so amazing, and how when utilized correctly, she can use it to not only move more effectively, but also be able to just destroy everything in sight. Even though Sarada does have the Sharingan, it's still not the end-all be-all when it comes to taking down an opponent, and Sakura proves this perfectly by being able to outmaneuver her and destroy everything around her. Basically, it looks like Sarada has been completely defeated when she realizes she can't completely control her chakra. that is until she decides that there's only something that she can specifically do in order to try and learn a little bit more about how these techniques work and how to have like a really cool fight with her mother. And that leads to a really great scene where they both decide to fight yet again, and they both decide to charge each other, and at the very last second, Sarada is able to use her Sharingan and use the most default ability of the technique, something that's been around since the beginning of the Naruto series, which is the Sharingan's ability to copy the movements of other people. And she essentially copies Sakura's movements down to a T, where they both end up punching each other directly with their fists, causing a massive explosion of pure epicness. Given the destruction of the landscape that they actually end up causing in this battle, I'm honestly surprised that both of these characters didn't get any more damaged or hurt. But then again, they're main characters. They gotta have plot armor just a little bit. But basically, Sakura learns in this moment that she is able to control her chakra, she just can't quite do it on her own yet. She was able to forcibly use the Sharingan to not only copy her mother's movements, but to also forcibly copy her chakra control, which was really awesome. So basically, she got a little bit of a cheat sheet using her Sharingan how to do this, and she gets a lot of encouragement from her mother and her father, knowing that this is basically only just the beginning. And what I love about this too is that you get to see Sakura getting really excited, getting ready to train her daughter, growing a stronger connection with her as well, and letting her know that this is only the beginning. This is just like when she was training with Tsunade. Basically, when she was at her weakest, when she reached her limit, that's when the real training is going to begin. And I also know this might sound a little strange and maybe a little sentimental and emotional, but it's really great to see Sasuke so happy, to see him interacting with his family and genuinely smiling over the fact that he's able to spend time with not only his daughter but his wife. There's something about that that's really pleasant to see, especially because it's something that's been so denied to the character for so long. It's always still weird to see Sasuke in these type of situations, considering how far gone he was in the original Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, but again, it's just very cathartic. The episode ends at Orochimaru's place, where we get to see that Mitsuki is indeed recovering, but he's going to need to be rebuilt in a few places. So Orochimaru is going to play a little operation with Mitsuki and try to put him back together. We also get to learn that apparently these Hashirama cells might have come from Orochimaru himself, and that's a pretty interesting detail. Apparently some of his old hideouts actually had this stuff, and I'm guessing this is where Kara and Victor and their group decided to go after it. And even Orochimaru himself doesn't quite know exactly who Kara is, and he never seems to bring them up, but I have a feeling he knows a little bit more of what's going on here. I mean, these weird, freaky scientists have to be getting together at some point, so maybe he's just being very coy and doesn't want to reveal too much, but it's an interesting detail, and the good news is that all three characters are indeed recovering, and it looks like they're all going to come back stronger than ever. So what's the rundown on this episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generation? So this was a surprising episode. I honestly thought it was going to be wholly dedicated to Boruto and Shijoji's fight, and unexpectedly we get a lot of time with Sarada and her family, which I think was definitely the best thing about this episode, getting not only some pretty cool training segments with some cool action scenes, but character development, which is something that I think is so crucial to these new characters, because while I do like Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki, they're almost certainly never going to replace the original Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura in terms of my nostalgia and love for these characters, but they're starting to do that little by little, and they're certainly turning into the next generation version of these characters. It only took, 170 episodes for me to start sort of feeling these emotions just a little bit more. But otherwise, I think one of the big highlights of this episode was simply just all of the action. It was all really solid from beginning to end. Shijoji's battle, while short-lived, had some really cool moments attached to it, especially after the opening credits rolled and we got to see more of their fight. It was really solid. And as for that high compression Rasengan, it's basically just a new form of Rasengan. Like I said, he hits the opponent with it, they get sent flying, and they have a big indention in their stomach. It's pretty classic. Luckily, this was supplemented by some really great stuff from Sarada, who, thankfully, like I said, they're not giving her a get-out-of-jail-free card by immediately just, transforming her Sharingan, which I totally thought was going to happen in this episode, but no, she still has a long way to go and a lot more training in order to achieve those lofty heights of what it means to be an Uchiha member. But getting to see her train with both mother and father, I think, is definitely one of the best things I've seen from her from the entire series, and frankly, it just gave me that good feel moment, especially at the end when you got to see the whole family come together, and a little bit of levity as well, knowing that her training has only just begun, and she has no idea what it really means to actually go through this training. It almost feels like Sakura is finally going to get out that frustration that she had while training with Tsunade, and she is going to perfectly give it to her daughter, which I think is really freaking awesome. Otherwise, it's pretty much exactly what you would expect from a big training episode, but it had some good family moments and emotional moments, and production value-wise, it looked pretty clean throughout. There were some real solid moments from this episode, and I can't wait to see more of the utilization of all these brand new techniques and things they're going to use in the future in the battles against Kara. So I thought these were pretty solid right here. I liked both of the big segments from this episode. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I wanted to see more in the battle against Shijoji, but otherwise I was really surprised by all the stuff with Sarada and her family, and I can't wait to see where the story is going to go next. It looks like the next episode is going to be a little more fillerish in terms of the content that they're actually going to give us, but maybe they'll surprise me again. I can't wait to see where it's heading. So there it is. That's my thoughts on this review. So there it is, that's my thoughts on this episode. I'd love to get yours, so make sure to sound off in the comment section below. What did you think about Boruto's brand new high compression Rasengan? How do you think this is going to be utilized further on in the series? Will we still get to see more of that wind-style Rasengan? And what did you think about training sequence with Sarada? How do you think she's going to become stronger as the series has go on? And what do you want to see from the rest of the series and the Kara arc as it continues? Let's discuss all that in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Please subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. If you did like this video, please take a kunai, make a fist, smash that like button. It helps out these videos so much. I cannot say that enough, and it also ensures that more people are actually going to be able to check out my content when it is released. I also want to thank all of my patrons. You guys are freaking incredible. Not only are you watching my content, sharing it with your friends, and giving it likes, but you're also making monthly donations, and I cannot thank you enough for that. Please remember, first-time donators, if you make a small donation, I will review an anime series of your choice, as well as adding your name to this list of super awesome people who are the producers of Ace Guru. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.